Whose roster spots are on the line this weekend? Rams that you need to be watching in their second preseason game against the Chargers. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley, and welcome to the episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do us a huge favor and subscribe to the Locked On Rams YouTube channel. Trying to get a 14,000 subscribers before opening kickoff, so definitely hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, hit the like button, and which player are you most looking forward to looking out for this weekend against the Chargers? My name is Doug McCain. Friends call me DMAC. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've been covering LA sports, the NFL for over a decade, from Bleacher Report to Dodgers Nation to 24/7 Sports, SI, and now the Rams for Locked On. And as always, I'm joined by the Rams pre-half and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710 LA. He's entering his 9th season covering your Los Angeles Rams. The people's champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. And on today's episode, we're breaking down what the Rams' 53-man roster is going to look like. Also, the Rams have their kicker and players you need to be looking out for this weekend in the Rams' second preseason game against the Chargers. But first, today's episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Okay, so we got a jam-packed show today, Travis. Lots to get into. But as we talked about before the show, Sean McVey is going to be in the booth, and Aubrey Pleasant is going to be calling plays. He's going to be the coach. We saw the energy that Sean McVey brought from the sidelines, basically being a part of the broadcast. We know this guy has all the potential to honestly step in day one, probably be one of the best color commentators in the sport. So as excited to see that as I am the game on Sunday.
Yeah, it's funny because let me make sure that I make this as clear as I possibly can. This in no way is a commentary on Aubrey Pleasant or his ambition or capabilities of running a football team as a head coach. He's going to get some reps. I think there is some benefit to that, to be sure. I know that the players will be out there competing and trying to make this team, et cetera, et cetera. I agree with you that Sean McVey will be a lead analyst in the NFL at some point when he decides that he wants to do that. Hopefully it's very, very far into the future. What I take away from this, what I take away from Sean McVey saying, yeah, you do it, I'm going to go sit with the TV guys, is that he gives zero you-know-whats about the preseason. Think about how coaches for years and years, decades, used to treat these preseason games as opportunities to get sharp, opportunities to evaluate your roster, this, that, and the next thing. Sean McVey is literally just like, yeah, you guys do it. I'll just be over there. It's insane to me. This is how worthless the preseason is, that the head coach, one of the best head coaches in the league, is saying, yeah, I don't care. I'll just go sit over there. We need more guys to follow his lead. Once we get some terminal velocity on this, we can finally get rid of these ridiculous preseason games, which are utterly and worthless and boring and unimportant, and we can get to a fuller schedule of real NFL games right out of the gate. Enough of this nonsense. Sean McVey clearly agrees with me.
Absolutely. I mean, forget Sean McVey for color commentator, for analyst. How about Sean McVey for NFL commissioner? Okay,
sure.
That's definitely what we needed for. I love this vision for the preseason, but there are some very compelling storylines in this preseason.
Sean McVey doesn't think so. Sean McVay's taking a day off during a game.
He's taking a day off. I guarantee, though, he's going to be looking at some players competing in this game to determine their roster spot. And the first is being Stetson Bennett. Stetson Bennett has a lot to play for in the Rams' second preseason game. We talked about it pretty much all week. 7 interceptions and just 100 pass attempts in 4 preseason games. And McVay already expressed doubt that he was going to take over that job with Jimmy Garoppolo set to miss the first 2 games of the suspension. Matthew Stafford left practice with a hamstring tightness. Hopefully that's a lot of nothing. You're not going to need to see any backup quarterback, but still, if Stetson Bennett doesn't go out there and perform, it's going to be difficult to see him making this roster.
Well, I think, let's put these first 2 things together, right? That McVey is going to be off, maybe not off site, but off the sidelines and in the broadcast booth for a chunk of this game. And Stetson Bennett is competing, quite frankly, for maybe his spot on this team, if not his spot inside this league. I wouldn't love that if I were Stetson Bennett. I would scare the you-know-what out of me. That would make me very nervous that the head coach doesn't feel like he needs to be there to kind of shepherd me through what could be his final audition for that backup role. That would not fill me with confidence. That would not fill me with, this guy is completely invested in my success today against the Chargers. I think you're right. I think that Bennett is playing for his spot on this team. I think if he has a bad day, certainly if he has any sort of day comparable to what he did a week ago, I think that's a wrap. But even if it's better than a week ago, but still not very good, I do not know if he makes it to Detroit as the number 2 quarterback.
For sure. And if you go back and watch the game again, he did have some pretty nice throws at times, and he definitely looked his most comfortable when he was on the move, when he was on the run, kind of breaking the pocket there. But with the lack of pressure that was put on him by the Cowboys and his inability to make reads and see the defense and make throws, that's what you want to see from him. That's the number one thing that you would hope to see from him in the second game is 1, limit the mistakes, avoid the turnovers, and 2, make throws from the pocket. So hopefully we see that. If we don't, things could get dicey for Stetson. Hey, I'm just saying, the Bucs, they have Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask, and John Wolford could be cut. And Wolford is a guy they tried to sign from that practice squad. He refused last season. Maybe you go that route if you just need a real plug-and-play type of guy that can step in right away, knows the offense, knows McVay, knows the culture. He's definitely a break-in case emergency option. But let's all hope that Stetson Bennett puts it together.
Yeah, look, I hope so. And I hope this becomes an issue that we never have to talk about again because he plays well. He locks down that spot. Matthew Stafford stays healthy and Jimmy Garoppolo comes back week 3 against the Niners and we're never talking about this again. That would be the ideal situation. I don't need him to do anything, D-Mac. I don't need him to make a throw. I don't need him to make good. I need him to not blow it, right? Like let's lower this bar way, 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 way down. If the Rams just move the ball a few times and end up punting at the end of every possession, cool, fine. What you can't do is throw the ball to the other team. That's what can happen. If he plays 3 quarters, 4 quarters, and at the end of the day, he throws a handful of completions, they get a handful of first downs, maybe they kick a couple of field goals, maybe they get into the end zone, maybe they don't. But the 0 under interceptions is there. That's a successful day. Even if nothing else looks great, that is a massive, massive improvement over where we've been the last couple of times we've seen him play.
Good point. Absolutely good point right there. Just avoid the turnovers, and then you're already having a step in the right direction. Yep. Now, second player I think you need to look out for, safety Kamren Kinchens. Out of the U, was very impressed by him in his first game. He looked like a pro. He looked poised, played 31 snaps. He was physical. You saw him just pursuing the ball. He landed a big hit on the receiver to knock the ball loose and prevented a completion. He was great in the joint practice session this week. I thought he was fantastic. Some of the highlights that you saw, he made a really awesome play to jar the ball loose and prevent another completion. He has these great instincts and the way he can elevate and time his jumps and make plays. So he's someone that can absolutely solidify his spot on this team with another solid performance.
Yeah, no, this is exactly right. I think that you said a couple of things that are spot on. Number one, the instincts seem to be there. He seems to be around the play a whole bunch. I think that especially for a young player, that's a really good sign. He's physical. He's not afraid to kind of stick his face in there, which, as a safety, that's kind of part of the job. You're going to have to go in there and jar that ball loose occasionally along the way. I think that of the things that we saw in week 1 against Dallas, that Kinchens was a big part of this. I'm excited to see him again. This could be another one of those guys that we're talking about that the Rams found, not just a guy that makes the team, but a guy that maybe plays early in his career as a late round draft pick. I'm excited to see him. I'm very high on him at the moment.
Exactly. And the expectation for him right now is not that he could earn a job as a starter, but he's someone that can climb up that depth chart, cement his spot in the 53-man roster. And I definitely think he has starter's potential for the future. Very high on Kamren Kinchens. But coming up next, we're going to talk about more players that you need to be looking out for in the Rams' second preseason game this weekend against the Chargers, and also talk some 53-man roster. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
We are officially in division race territory right now in Major League Baseball season. So the only thing better than going to a game in the middle of the summer is going to a baseball game in the middle of the summer when there's a whole heck of a lot on the line. And that's what's going on here in Los Angeles, a 2-game lead. So if you love baseball the way that DMAC does, if you love baseball the way that I do, what's the first thing you need? You need a ticket, and that's where the Game Time app comes in, right? Put that Game Time app on your phone because Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app, they actually go down the closer you get to the first pitch. So you don't need to worry about planning way ahead. You think it's like, you know what, let's go watch the game tonight, see if they can extend that lead, see if it gets a little tighter. Game Time app, prices are getting lower the closer you get to the start of the game. You can save up to 60% by buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. Everything that is in your area, the Game Time app has you covered. So here's what you do. Take the guesswork out of buying your MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONNFL, LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are Roby Coleman days away from opening kickoff.
I love Nickel Roby-Coleman. He was one of my all-time favorite non-star Rams. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's not going to Pro Bowl after... I loved that guy. I loved him at SC. I loved him with the Rams. He played hard. He made big plays. He made the play that sent the Rams to the Super Bowl. I mean, and look, I love Nickel Roby-Coleman. If you are out there, I'm your guy.
Absolutely. He'll be definitely paying for all of his drinks when he's in New Orleans. Let's put it that way. Definitely not love there, but absolutely one of those Rams.
Could have gone either way.
Could have gone either way, man. It was the right call. Let's put that was the right call. Okay, we know that for sure, especially if you're a Rams fan. But definitely a shout out to all those everyday listeners out there. We appreciate you watching and listening to every single episode. And if you haven't yet, join the 5 listener days a week club. 5 episodes a week. Watch, listen, join that everyday listeners club, and you won't miss a thing about your Los Angeles Rams. Okay, so Travis, we're gonna pick it up. More players you need to be looking out for in the Rams' second preseason game. Number 3, Logan Bruss.
Yeah.
So want to give him some flowers, want to show him some love, want to highlight him because for all the doomers that want to label Logan Bruss, Logan Bust, in the words of the great Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend, because he's definitely showing something. The former 3rd-round pick, he was fantastic in the Rams' first preseason game against the Cowboys. You saw him in pass protection and run blocking. He looked like an NFL lineman. He has never played in a regular season game, still has to find a way to make this 53-man roster. But if he puts together another strong showing, I think that things trend towards that direction.
Look, you nailed it. I think that this is an incredibly pleasant surprise for the Rams to have had Logan Bruss be a piece that they can start to rely on a little bit. And like we've talked about from the moment that Jonah Jackson's scapula acted up and Alaric Jackson had his, little bumps and bruises and Rob Havenstein got stepped on, the depth of the offensive line became a big deal right away. They obviously spent that draft pick on him a couple of years ago. He gets hurt in the very first preseason game. He misses that whole year. And then last year, he gets relegated to the practice squad. And it's like, oh my gosh, this was a complete swing and a miss. Like you said, DMAC, he looks like an NFL offensive lineman all of a sudden. Again, it's the preseason, so take it for what it's worth. But even in some of the joint practice work from everything that I've been hearing and looking at, it seems like he's been holding his own. So this is a very positive development. It's another piece that you can use, kind of that break glass in case of emergency situation. And having him be able to go in there and you're not holding your breath every snap, it's very good news.
Absolutely. 81.5 PFF grade, allowed 0 pressures telling you, he's going to be the Gavin Lux of the Rams. I'm calling it right now. Calling it right now. Some guy, he can do it. And then next, someone I'm really high on, someone I really want to see get an opportunity, wide receiver Xavier Smith. And he's someone that kind of is hovering around the bubble, possibly. Will the Rams take 7 receivers? Will it be less than that? They have some flexibility at other positions, but he caught all 4 targets against the Cowboys. He finished with 22 yards, but I want to see him pop. I want to see him stretch the field and make a big play. And I think if he shows Sean McVey and this team that he can do that, then he adds to his value and has a chance to make this team.
I think that's the operative word, right? He has to do something that pops. He has to do something that's flashy. He has to do something that makes you go, wait, who is that? What happened right there? Because if it's just kind of standard run-of-the-mill stuff, even if it's pretty good standard run-of-the-mill stuff, it feels like he might be the odd man out. It feels like he might be just outside that line of who makes it and who doesn't. He's one of those guys. This is the spring training thing, a training camp thing. Make it impossible for them not to put you on the team. That's what it's got to be. You got to be so hot. You got to be so good. You got to be so flashy. You have to be so indispensable that there's no way that they say, okay, I can't leave that guy off the team. Somebody else will pick him up or whatever it may be. I think he's got to have one of those moments. The problem with him is who's delivering him the football. And you know, these things kind of go together. You're a little dependent on your surroundings. You're a little dependent on, you know, if you're a wide receiver, you can't throw the ball to yourself. If you're a quarterback, you can't catch the ball yourself. You got to get a little bit of a relationship thing going here with Stetson Bennett struggling the way it is. And with his, I would assume, hesitation and reluctance to turn the ball over moving forward, maybe you're not taking some big shots. You're getting a little bit more conservative, which might not allow him to pop the way that we're both hoping.
That's a good point. That's why you kind of have to keep your eyes on him to see him if he can create that separation and how he gets in and out of his breaks. I think for him, he has a couple of things going for him. And one, he's one of the few speedsters on the team. He has a sub 4.4 speed. And 2, he can be dangerous in special teams as well. So I think that definitely is a bonus. So definitely want to see what we can get from him on Sunday. And then Tyler Davis. So Tyler Davis was one of the standouts on defense against the Cowboys. He was just consistently being disruptive. He was in the backfield, and he's someone that could absolutely provide depth behind Bobby Brown, definitely get some stops in the run game and do some damage.
Well, you know, what Smith did is kind of what we were just talking about. It was one of those moments like, wait, hey, he's back there again. Man, that's another big play. Hey, who is that guy? Hey, where did they drive? Where did he come from? Where's the investment here? I think that's what you have to do in these games to really kind of turn some heads around. We know who the starters are. We probably even know who most of the first round or the first layer of depth pieces are. Make them evaluate, make them make a decision, make them make it very difficult to leave you off of the roster, off of the team. And I thought that he did a fantastic job. We talked about Kinchens. He was the one that kind of turned your head a little bit there, but certainly Smith after that was a player that we're looking at and saying, okay, who is that? Because he was somebody that you were forced to reckon with.
Absolutely. And Siciliano pointed out in the broadcast that Dabo Swinney said that he would be on his all-time Clemson team. And Tyler Davis, you saw at that nose tackle position, getting in the backfield, but also making the read he did on that screen pass where he's going up the field. He shows that motor, that relentless pursuit. So was high on Tyler Davis. And finally, Nick Hampton. So Nick Hampton, it was another big-time standout for the Rams defense against the Cowboys. And you saw him just getting pressure on the quarterback, using that bull rush to just push guys back into Trey Lance. And he got 2 QB hits, no sacks. I want to see him get home and get that sack. And I think that he's going to be that 4th edge rusher on the team behind Jared Verse, Byron Young, and Michael Hoyt.
Yeah, I think that's his spot. I think that he makes the team. I think that that's a good spot for him. Like you were saying, be disruptive. Be the person that's physical. Be the person that maybe even a little bit on what's the phrase? The echo of the whistle. You know, somebody that's just really kind of pushing it, and somebody that can be disruptive, I guess, is the best word for it. Like you said, those 3 spots ahead of him are probably pretty well established, but we know what depth means in this league, and I think, you know, for a 4th option at that position, Hampton feels like the right choice.
No doubt about it. And then coming up next, we are talking about special teams. The Rams have found their kicker. How much can they improve this year on special teams? Well, It's only up from where we were last year. So that's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. Not just find somebody to fill the role, but right for the role, right? That's why you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. What do we talk about all during training camp, right? Is finding somebody that fits into what you're doing, that fits the scheme of what you are about. Same thing when you're hiring for your business, right? You need to find somebody that is the right fit for the right job for your organization. And that's why LinkedIn is so important, because it's not just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to that perfect role in your organization. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Travis, so one of your favorite things to talk about is special teams.
Oh, yeah.
And looks like we got some clarity on the kicker situation. The Rams releasing Tanner Brown, giving that job to Joshua Karty, who has impressed during preseason, during training camps, made most of his kicks, made the routine kicks, and last season, this is not hyperbole, last season was not just one of the worst Rams special team seasons of all time. It literally was one of the worst special team seasons for any NFL team in the history of the sport. They were the 6th worst special teams unit since DVOA has been calculated. They missed 16 kicks, field goal and PATs. That was the most of any team in 20 years. The kick returns, the punt returns, just nothing last year for the Rams was really productive. So they need to find a way to, at the very least, get close to league average from that standpoint. And like I said, it's only up from last season.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the part about that wasn't just the kicking game, wasn't just making field goals and PATs. That obviously is the most important part. That is the most obvious part, that last year with Brett Maher and Lucas Haversick, they were just missing too many kicks. That's no good. And Josh Karty, at least for a preseason game and for a camp, has settled that down. Just the action, the mechanism of the snap, the hold, the kick, it all looked really good and solid and, quite frankly, easy. Like, I know it's not, but to make a hard thing look easy, I think speaks to your competency, and that looked very competent. But you're right. It's not just, hey, let's make our 40-yard field goals and our PATs. That would be nice. But is there anything to be found in a return game? Is there any way to prevent others from exploiting your coverage in these things? It wasn't just that they missed kicks. They were kind of bad across the board. Ethan Evans was pretty good, but their coverage was really not. That their return game was awful. I mean, they just didn't even try. Now we'll see what it looks like with the new kickoff rules. We saw a little bit last night, the Eagles and the Patriots. There was at least one that kind of got popped a little bit. So maybe there's some opportunities there, but they need to return, or at least attempt to return, back to your point. You don't need to have the second coming of Devin Hester back there, but some sort of return game would be nice.
Absolutely. And a lot of people calling out Chase Blackburn and putting this on him. He's not the guy going out there kicking these field goals, right? So they definitely just need to hit on Karty, who the pick in the 6th round. Anytime you draft a kicker, you have high expectations for him. So let's hope that they found their next Greg Zuerlein, their next Matt Gay, their next kicker that gives them an advantage. Someone you can trust late in games, that at the very least is dependable, but also someone that's additive too, that's actually a weapon. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that, the additive part of it, because think about what you said. This was the 6th worst kicking game ever, not just last season, ever. And they still made the playoffs? You know what I mean? Like that usually when you are in worst ever territory, it's a fatal flaw, and you're not able to overcome it. That they were in worst ever territory and still went to the postseason, still had a chance to win a postseason game. Now, I would argue they probably had less of a chance because of the way that they had to call plays, because of their kicker being as bad as he was. But if everything else remains similar to what it was a year ago, and you just elevate the floor of your kicking game, you're a much better team if everything else stays exactly the same. Because, again, I don't need 60-yarders. I don't need Justin Tucker. Let's make everything 50 yards and under. Great. This is a very different unit if he can do that.
For sure. And as you point out, I mean, it clearly impacted them against the Lions in the wild card game. And it was really just something that lingered the entire season that put too much pressure on the offense. So, yeah, I mean, it's like a team and not having a bullpen, right? I mean, you definitely need to go out there and address this fast again. There's three facets, right? You got offense, defense, and special teams. Last year, the offense, second half of the season, really came together. First half, it was the defense, but special teams, they were bad all season long. But as you point out, they still overcame that to make the postseason and surprise everyone. So just imagine if you have that this year and the other facets. That's why I think that it was a definite point of emphasis this year.
What made you think of a bullpen? Anything in particular that made you jump out as to why a bullpen may be a fatal flaw of a baseball team? Have you seen anything recently that sparked that thought?
So the Rams need to make Michael Kopech their kicker. Is that what you're saying? I totally.
Yeah, what are we doing? Come on.
I like that thought right there. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And you can follow the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, at Travis Rogers. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.